let's recap the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for you here quite briefly. We are going to be putting out a lot of stuff between now and April 27th when the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction ceremony airs on HBO, HBO Go, HBO Now, and On Demand. You can get details and info about that at HBO.com. But the Rock Hall was so nice enough to have us backstage at the show, and boy, did we have a whole ton of fun. We have some amazing pictures. If you go to WEHM.com right now and just click on the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame photo right on the first page there, it'll take you through some of the cool stuff that we got to see. The whole evening was amazing. Like I said, we ran, Joe Show and I, we went over there to the Barclays Center. It was a packed house. Media check-in was at 5, and I was surprised to see that, and the show was at 7. I was surprised to see that there were people lined up just to get in outside by the time that we got there for media check-in. So that was kind of crazy to see, but I know there's a lot of industry people and a lot of VIPs and all that kind of stuff. And boy, were there ever VIPs. We just went, they took us, so we were primarily set up backstage, but they took us to the front of house where everybody was sitting for the show, and they were like, here, you guys can just go get some shots, and you'll see this on WEHM.com, but we were just kind of walking the floor, and it was like, oh, there's Fleetwood Mac, and oh, there's Chris Isaak, and oh, there's there's Questlove. It's just like just everybody was there, and I was literally just walking around just trying to get the vibe and the feel of the place. We found out that Stevie Nicks was going to start the show, so I wanted to get up close and shoot her microphone and some of that stuff, because they were letting us just kind of roam, which was awesome. And I was like, oh, there's Mick Fleetwood. Let me just, got a couple pictures. You'll see me a couple of selfies there. Mike Campbell was super awesome. Got in a shot with him. Chris Isaak was amazing. Chris Isaak was my first interview ever on the air. First time I ever got to interview anybody, it was Chris Isaak. So showed up there, and we were just chatting. I was telling him that story. He got quite a kick out of that. And a couple of other funny things that I can't mention. And then, I was rolling over and ran into Questlove, and we were just talking about Questlove the other day and how his food Instagram is so, his regular Instagram is good, but his food Instagram is killer. But Questlove was there and got quite a shout out from Janet Jackson. It was kind of hard to see. So then what happens is they took us out. So that was pre-show. So we were kind of just mingling with everybody pre-show. And then the show started. And then what wound up happening is, because we had backstage access, so we were literally right behind the stage. We can hear the stage from where the EHM setup was. We were that close to it. In fact, if you see the David Byrne photo on WEHM.com, the shot of David Byrne, that was literally from where the EHM broadcast booth was. I say that quite loosely, broadcast booth, our table, essentially. We literally just turned around and took a picture and turned back around and got back to working. Because what happened is, as the show starts, they're filtering people back into the press room. So we didn't really get to see, and they had the show on back there, and we have audio and we have clips of the show that we'll share with you again before you can hear it and watch it for yourself on HBO. But you're scrambling between trying to pay attention to that and then also trying to pay attention to who's, going to be appearing in the press room. And as soon as the show started, I think the Zombies were there. Brian May and Def Leppard were there early on. They were one of the first ones to appear. I think they actually were before the show started. Before the show started, Brian May was up there. Yeah, with Def Leppard. Now, I didn't even know that he was going to be inducting them into the Hall of Fame. But as I learned, and as we'll be sharing with you, they did have quite the close relationship over the course of their time together. Let's pick that up. Here's Brian May talking about the first time he met with Def Leppard as he was inducting them into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Friday night, Barclays Center in Brooklyn. Let's take a listen.
1981, cast your minds back, 1981, Queen were in a studio in Munich recording an album called Hot Space. And I nipped out to see some friends of mine, Richie Blackmore's Rainbow. And who should be supporting but a young, precocious bunch of boys called Def Leppard. I got there late and I missed them. And I felt so bad about it, I sought out their dressing room and went in to see them, sort of poked my head through the door and said, "Hi guys, I just wanted to say hello because I miss you, I'm really sorry. I'm Brian May from Queen." And they said, as a man, they said, "No shit, you're good."
So obviously they knew who Brian May was. I thought that was a funny little clip there. And they shared a lot more. Actually, there's a really touching clip that I think came from the induction part. Where Brian relates that when Freddie died, it was Joe from Def Leppard that was the first phone call to him. So that was pretty amazing. So I had no idea that relationship was so close and so obviously fitting. And I have some more audio for you that we're not going to share just yet because, again, we have some time to roll this all out, where Brian May, and you can hear it in his voice. He was like, I wouldn't let anybody else induct Def Leppard into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So I thought that was pretty cool. Again, I'm not going to be able to get to everything here. We're going to kind of skip around a bit, but Stevie did open up the show. Thought she was amazing. She did Stand Back, Leather and Lace, Stop Dragging My Heart Around, Age of 17. During Age of 17, I vaguely remember hearing a little bit of Prince's When Doves Cry. She brought out Don Henley to do Leather and Lace, and she brought out Harry Styles to do Stop Dragging. She went pretty in depth on Harry Styles. I got some good stuff on that I'm going to share with you. And if you want to see a picture of Harry and Stevie together backstage, you can do so. Again, it's all on our page at wehm.com. Pretty surprised, actually, that it was Harry Styles that inducted Stevie Nicks when you think about the long list of people that could have done it. Pretty extraordinary that it was Harry Styles. I'm not sure. There was obviously a genuine love there between the two of them, believe it or not. Like, I heard Stevie speak about it. And again, this is something that we'll be sharing with you in the future. You could obviously tell there's a relationship there and she has a great respect for him. But, I'm not sure that that's not a kind of thing where, like, the Rock Hall doesn't step in and say, look, we got to get the 14-year-old girls to watch this. We need, Harry Styles, Again, not to say that like they would force her into it, but if she had her choice between three people and the Rock Hall is like, boy, Harry would be really good because he'll bring in the younger audience, I can totally see how that sort of would come together. But again, this is all just guessing on my part, just gut feel from the whole thing. Because again, you look at the storied career at Stevie Nicks, I mean, there's 100 people that could have inducted her and would have been amazing. So I didn't really, there was somebody, we were busy in the press room, so I didn't really get to see a lot of her performance, but I did sort of catch some of it. And she did have some really interesting things to say, both front of the house and backstage, that which we will share with you, of course. I will say this. I was hugely disappointed in Radiohead. Now, I knew that Tom York wasn't going to show up. And I did say before we went into this, like, this is kind of for the fans. This is a fan thing to do. And being there that night and watching the intro, because before every induction, they play like a little, vignette of highlights, the career highlights and the music and everything together. And watching Radiohead up there, I just got like, I was like so, and I think I'm a big Radiohead fan, not massive. I certainly bought the album. I would say middle of the road, like middle to good, big Radiohead fan. And watching that vignette and seeing all the great songs after all those years and hearing that room just cheer and scream for them, you could obviously tell there were some Radiohead fans there. I just, like, when it was over and Ed and Phil went up to, they were the only ones who showed, when they went up to accept from David Byrne. Again, David Byrne showed up to induct them. So huge deal. I just found myself so mad at Tom York because it was a real jerk move not showing up. I'm sorry. I know he wrote this piano thing and it was being performed in England, but I mean, come on. Give me a break. Be there. Just be there. Be there for your fans. I'm going to say this too, and it's weird when you get close up and you see what it takes to put that show on. When you see what it takes, all the people, like we just roamed around, and what does the Barclays hold? 16, 17,000, 18,000 maybe with the people on the floor. 18,000 seat thing. There were probably close to 2,000 people behind the scenes just to pull that thing off. Swear to God. It was something that, it was unlike anything I'd ever seen before. And I've been to every concert, sporting event. I mean, you name it. I see the massive undertakings, but the amount of work it took to put that together for one night, the makeup people, the publicists, the radio people, the TV, the print people, like everybody, the media, the catering, the crew, the grip guy, like just everything, all the people. It was such an amazing undertaking. And when you get so close to it and you see all that, and you see the president of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and you see the artists and the writers, and you see little Steven there with no reason to be there, just other than this pure, flat out love of the music, just to do his part. You know what I'm saying? And recognize people. When you see Sheryl Crow there just hanging out just because, all this stuff, you realize, you know what, it is important. It is a big deal. And then you realize, like, when people go, oh, that's not rock and roll, it's just music. It's all about music. And you see all this and you get so close to it and you're like, how could you blow this off? It's such a wonderful thing. I looked around and I had a moment where I was watching everybody and I go, look at all the people, forget the music for a second, that are employed on a night like tonight. All the people that were there from HBO and Sirius XM and all the outlets across the country and EHM, and again, like I said, the media people getting it all together and organizing it, the press people, the makeup people. Like, we walked down a hallway, there were just makeup areas just set up, and, you know, people were getting their stuff done, and like, yeah, just all this stuff, all these people employed because of some songs. Just, it was amazing. It was really, really amazing. And for Tom York not to show up to blow that off and act like he's too cool for the room, it really was disappointing. It really, really was. Like, it was such a shame. Again, David Byrne showed up. Like, if you're not going to do it for the fans, have some respect for your contemporaries who had enough respect to be there that night and make sure to do the right thing. F- for Tom York. He really screwed it up. It was a bum job. It was a really, really bum job on his part. It really was. And I forgot if it was Ed or Phil who said it, but he said it's a big deal and it feels like it. He goes, I wish the others could be here because they would be feeling it. And it was so true. It was so, I'm telling you, something about being in that room, watching the crowd, watching people get excited. I mean, at the start of the show, they were just flashing guitars and drum kits, like famous instruments over the course of time, Ringo's drum kit, stuff like that. And the crowd was just going nuts. Like, we were all excited. We were all passionate and in love and there for the music. And this guy's like, I wrote a piano thing. I'm going to play. I'm not even going to play it. I'm going to watch somebody else play it in England. Come on, man. 20, 25 some odd years of a career, and that's what you chose? That sucked. Really disappointed in Tom York on that one. And case in point, and again, I can't, we're just running out of time here, but we will be doing podcasts and vlogs and a lot of blogs on the website, wehm.com. So, you know, keep track. We're going to be just distributing a lot of stuff over the next little while here. Robert Smith who Joe and I did a Facebook Live. Again, you can see it if you missed it on, even if you're not on Facebook, you can still see the video on WEHN.com. Click on the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. It was great. We're doing a Facebook Live, and just Robert Smith is just hanging out, walking around, doing interviews, like popping in and out. You know, we got him on the Facebook Live. We didn't talk to him. We were going to, but we didn't. We just turned the camera around so you could see him just walking by. The guy was all smiles ear to ear. All smiles ear to ear. And not in the audio I'm going to share for you now, but we have audio of him saying, like, yeah, we weren't really into this until you start to realize how much the fans are into it. And then you kind of get excited about it. And then you show up and you're like, boy, this is really a nice thing. We've just become so jaded and negative. It's all the keyboard cowboys on social media, you know, that have the loudest voice. But, you know, the God's honest truth is the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is an awesome thing. And you got to see it there firsthand. Again, there's nothing better than the relationship of artist to fan. And that's what's celebrated on that night, which is why it was so beautiful to be a part of it. It really was. And Robert Smith, who you would assume, and again, like, I know there's like a clip trending on social media where, I don't know who it was, somebody from the Rock Hall was excited that Robert Smith and The Cure were walking over, and she's like, I'm as excited as you are. You know, are you guys as excited as I am? And Robert Smith turns to her and goes, clearly not. And it was kind of like this like funny little thing, but it was kind of a negative thing. But he was just joking. But the clip abruptly ends right there. And it just kills me because it's like, why that negative thing? Why? Because the Robert Smith that I saw that night, and you can ask Joe Show, she'll back me up 1,000%, was all smiles from ear to ear. Went out, did his thing, made his acceptance speech, performed his heart out. They did Snake Dog Shake, A Forest, Love Song, Just Like Heaven, and Boys Don't Cry. Didn't do Friday I'm in Love, much to the chagrin of the media pool. Came back, did media, right? Did one-on-one. Nobody got to interview one-on-one. Well, a couple of people did, but SiriusXM because they paid for it, and HBO because they paid for it. They own the rights, those two. So they did one-on-ones, but then he came out and answered questions from all of us. And then he was just literally hanging out in the hallway, walking back and forth, doing photos, doing some interviews. Like, you can tell he was just falling back in love with being a rock star again. Right there that night in front of my very eyes. Completely just falling in love with being a rock star again. Out on stage in the press room, answering questions with long answers, like looking at the moderator like, yeah, we can keep going, because he was just flat out enjoying himself. It was so beautiful and lovely to see. It is the 30th anniversary of Disintegration, and we had talked on this show about whether or not they would take that album out on tour with them, because they announced a couple of shows, 3 in Sydney. Here is Robert Smith talking about Disintegration and what they plan on doing with it. Right now, as we speak, The Cure have those 3 shows in Sydney. They have a bunch of shows in Europe, nothing on the books for North America yet. But here's Robert Smith in audio that we have exclusively from being backstage at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction ceremony.
8 years ago, we did the first 3 albums at the Sydney Vivid Festival, and it just seemed nice. I just wanted to do something to mark the anniversary of Disintegration, because it obviously means a lot to me and a lot to the band. And as often happens with these things, I wanted it to be kind of low-key, but the interest since we've announced it has been such that we are now looking at venues to do it in other places, which I'm not being disingenuous, I kind of knew that was going to happen. It's just whether we do it. When we came to New York and Los Angeles and London last time, we played smaller venues. This time around, because it's Disintegration, I'm not sure that we might just do 2 big shows, or maybe 3 or 4 across America, just with the full kind of thing, because it's quite a grand, a grandiose, I might say, thing. But, so we will do it somewhere else, but I'm honestly not sure where yet. But before the end of the year, I'm sure we will have played in North America with it.
So there you go. If you were hoping that The Cure are going to take Disintegration here to the States, Robert Smith plans on doing it. They're just trying to find the venue size. Last time he said they played North America, played some smaller places. Now they're looking at it because there's such great interest. I mean, they're probably trying to figure out, do we do a Madison Square Garden, 25,000 people, or do we do a MetLife Stadium? Or do we do somewhere in between, like a Jones Beach, amphitheater style thing? No, probably not, because they won't get that out in the summer in time. But you get where I'm going with this. They're figuring out the venue size. So super exciting to see that. Again, like you're watching Robert Smith and this reinvigoration in him. It was so unbelievable to see. We have so much more to share with you. I can't do it all in one shot here. But like I said, keep your eye on the vlogs at wehm.com. Keep your eye on the podcasts, wehm.com, and the blog articles that we're going to be putting together, all for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. There was so much to take away from the evening. A lot of news, a lot of interesting stories about the past, a lot of cool things that happened, and we'll have it all for you right here on the air and on wehm.com. And don't forget, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction ceremony on HBO, April 27th. HBO Go, HBO Now, and on demand. Details and info at hbo.com.